Hi, this is the second of my HMRC whistleblowing videos. It's HMR. I've done a few others before, but the second in the series I'm doing. This is HMRC whistleblower part two. As I was saying, I was I was informed that I had 5 complaints against me in July 2004. Complaints by Anthony Stansfield, Phil Davis, Tim Fisher, Nick Ivel, and Tony Smith. The It was the HMRC external complaints team, which means it was a team within HMRC, but not at the tax credit office. This somehow was done so the investigation would be independent of the tax credit office. How it can be independent of the tax credit office when it's still being orchestrated by HMRC, who run the tax credit office, is anybody's guess. But there you go. Anyway, the 5 complaints against me, as I said in my part one, mirrored exactly the same complaints that neo-Nazis have been making against me because of my academic research on the BNP. The HMRC manager now in charge of the complaints was a chap called Doug Howell, who was based, as I understand it, somewhere in the northeast, and he was being run by a lady called Frances Pugh, who was based in London. As I said, the complaints mirrored precisely what neo-Nazis have been saying. For example, Anthony Stansfield's complaint included expressing support for suicide bombers, bullying, playing the race card, and sexual harassment. Exactly what neo-Nazis had been saying beforehand. Tim Fisher's complaint was complaint of bullying and other things. Phil Davis, his complaint was of making sexual comments and bullying. In fact, he was just basically saying what Anthony Stansfield and Tim Fisher said. Nick Ivel's complaint was bullying and expressing support for suicide, blah, 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 blah. But the most interesting complaint to me was Tony Smith's complaint, because his complaint not only said that I expressed support for suicide bombers, which I never had, but his complaint also complained about me attending a anti-racist rally in Burnley. He said he saw me on TV heckling the British National Party, and there can be no place in the civil service for anybody with those sorts of views. The BNP being a neo-Nazi group which has sought to remove non-whites and Jewish people from the civil service and country as a whole. He said in his complaint, he asked what I was doing there, and I told him I was there for research purposes, which is true. It's part of my MA, which I'd already spoken to HMRC about, and they didn't have any problems with it. But how could they? My academic research had nothing whatsoever to do with HMRC, and indeed many civil servants take part in anti-BNP protests. Indeed, the Public and Commercial Services Union, the PCS, actually encouraged civil servants to do. But what was interesting about all these 5 complaints is they were all corroborated by each other. All 5 members of staff all supported each other. But that was hardly surprising, because as Tim Fisher said in his complaint, his complaint would be supported by Anthony Stansfield, Phil Davis, Nick Ivel, and Tony Smith, the very people who put in the complaints with him. In other words, they were colluding. They were colluding together. Another thing about these complaints is that they weren't actually dated. So while they were accusing me, for example, of expressing support for suicide bombers, they didn't actually say on what date, when or where. The only member of staff whose complaint was dated was Phil Davis. And in my next part of the blog, I will discuss that with you.